Hello and welcome to Cortex Symphony 2024. If we haven't met before, my name is Matt DeVincentis and I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Cortex here at Palo Alto Networks, and I'll be your host for today's conference. As you and I both know, the security landscape continues to rapidly evolve. Of course, over the past 12 months, we've all seen the rise of AI, and the speed of attacks has become faster than ever before. I know that security operations teams like yours are under more pressure than ever before to protect your organization from these risks. But what if I told you there's a way to completely change the game? That there's a better way to detect and stop threats? A way for you to not only respond faster, but also go on the offensive to proactively protect your organizations. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not anymore. At Palo Alto Networks, we've tapped into the power of AI and automation to empower you like never before. It's time to forget about the tedious busy work, the endless triaging of security alerts, so that you can focus on what really matters. In today's event, we've got an exciting lineup of industry leaders, security visionaries, and customers just like you. And they're going to share their insights on the future of SecOps and the new advancements in AI-driven security. Up first, we have Palo Alto Networks founder and Chief Technology Officer, Nir Zuk.
Forever, the cybersecurity industry has been focused on mostly one thing: keeping the adversaries out. Network security, endpoint security, identity and access management, all the other technology that we've been developing and you've been deploying has focused almost exclusively on making sure that nobody gets into the organization. This approach is an important one and we should keep doing it, but it is destined to fail because we have to be right 100% of the time and they have to be right only once. Meaning, if an adversary tries thousands of times, different ways to get in, and we miss them once, they're inside. Luckily, we have the SOC, the Security Operations Center. One of the main functions of the SOC is to assume that an adversary has managed to get in, and now we need to find them and stop them. Of course, the SOC does other things as well. I believe this is the most important function of the SOC. Sometimes we call it hunting. When hunting, the SOC gets measured by two numbers. The first one is the mean time to detect, meaning once an incident is detected, going back through the logs, looking at the first log that indicated that an adversary is inside, we just measure how much time has passed. We average that across all incidents, and we get the mean time to detect. The second number is the mean time to something that starts with an R. Some say response, some say remediate, some say recover, but mean time to R something. Of course, that number is measured from the time we know about an incident in the SOC, meaning from the time the SOC has determined that an adversary is inside until the ticket for the incident is closed and we have remediated the situation. We average that over time and we get the mean time to respond. Not many security operations centers measure these numbers, and for a good reason. They don't look good. Those that do will find out that the mean time to detect is usually measured in weeks, sometimes months, and the mean time to respond is measured in days, sometimes weeks. Those numbers look bad. But that's the max that humans can do, unfortunately. We believe that using technology, these numbers can be reduced significantly, and that's what Cortex is about. Cortex is about taking the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond, remediate, recover, whatever the R is, from days, weeks, and months to under 1 minute. If we can bring down the numbers to under 1 minute, of course, if and when an adversary makes it into the organization, we can find them quickly, stop them quickly before they are able to do anything bad. These numbers, by the way, are related to each other. The longer it takes us to find the adversaries, the higher the mean time to detect is, the more difficult it is to remediate, the more difficult it is to recover, and the mean time to recover goes up as well. So it is important that we focus on both numbers, reduce the mean time to detect, reduce the mean time to respond, and together, as I said, we believe that these numbers can be under 1 minute. In this conference, you're going to learn about how Cortex reduces these two numbers to under 1 minute. I want to talk about the theory behind it. I want to explain why a few years ago, Palo Alto Networks decided to spend a lot of effort, a lot of time and money on the assumption that can be done, that we can reduce the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond to under 1 minute. Well, it goes like this. We observed that almost every time there is an incident, we eventually figure out what happened. Meaning, even in situations where logging is very scarce, you bring in Unit 42, you bring in the experts, the incident response experts, and eventually they find enough information to piece what happened, to figure out that the adversaries entered from here, and then they exploited this, and deployed this malware, and they jumped here, and they took this data, and this is how they exfiltrated it out, and so on. And that brings up the question, if almost always there is the data to tell us what happened, why aren't we using this data in real time to understand that this is happening? Or if we know that almost always there is the data to understand that something is happening, let's go and build something that does it. Of course, it's easy, once you know that something bad happened, to bring in the experts and have them work for days and weeks and months on figuring out what happened. But how are you going to do it with million events coming in every second, and you don't know which events are good and which events are bad, and you have to investigate each and every of these events as if it was part of a breach, meaning do something that humans take days and weeks and months, 1,000,000 times a second? Well, luckily, algorithms and the availability of compute and storage in the cloud got to a point where this is possible. Today, we're able to take millions of events per second and investigate each and every one of them as if it was part of a breach, find out those that are part of the breach, within 1 minute, know about it, and then execute remediation recovery procedures. That's what Cortex does. Stick around and you're going to know how. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy today, and let's work together on bringing down your mean time to detect and mean time to respond to under 1 minute. Bye, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Whitmore, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about the modern threat landscape, and more specifically about how Cortex can play an important role in helping organizations stay ahead of advanced cybercriminals. Before we dive in, I want to take a minute to share a bit about what we do in Unit 42, the business I've had the privilege to lead for the last 3 years. Unit 42 is Palo Alto Networks Services and Threat Intelligence Division. The services we provide include incident response, managed services like MDR and managed threat hunting, and cyber risk management services, which help find and remediate risk within organizations to safeguard against potentially devastating cyber threats. Unit 42 services are all underpinned by threat research, and our team of researchers are constantly keeping their finger on the pulse of the landscape and ever-changing threat actors. The intelligence we collect is fed back into our services teams, into Palo Alto Networks products, and ultimately directly to our customers to improve our ability to detect and respond to threats. A number of factors are making a big impact on the threat landscape, bringing us to an annual cost of around $8 trillion globally. To get to a number that large, it stands to reason that organizations of all types are experiencing attacks at a scale, level of sophistication, and speed that we have not seen before. It doesn't matter how big your organization is or what industry you're in. If you have vulnerable applications that are exposed to the internet, nearly every business in the world does, that makes you a target. This is frustrating for sure, but I'm optimistic that it's also solvable with the right approach. So let's dive a little deeper into each of these threat trends, what organizations are facing, what to expect with the emergence of AI, and how you best protect your business. You'll want to stay tuned to hear Lee and Gonan, who follow right after me, talk about new innovations which do just that. Okay, let's talk about the first threat area I mentioned, which is scale. We're now seeing advanced persistent threat actors hit targets on a large scale within a very short time frame. A covert data transfer network called the KV botnet was used by APTs like Insidious Taurus and Volt Typhoon, which is a top-tier sophisticated nation-state actor that prides itself on staying undetected. This was taken down by the FBI in the United States in December of 2023, but threat actors worked at lightning speed to restore the botnet. In a 3-day period, botnet operators targeted approximately 33% of the Netgear ProSafe devices on the internet for re-exploitation. This is a total of 2,100 individual devices. Unfortunately, they didn't stop there. We've also seen ransomware groups operating on a much larger scale than before. In 2023, we saw a nearly 50% increase in post to ransomware leak sites compared to that of 2022. This means that ransomware groups are publicly shaming significantly more victims. Ransomware groups posted about an average of 77 victims per week last year. So how were they able to scale so quickly in such a short period of time? Their ability to increase their attacks is thanks in part to the mass exploitation of zero-day vulnerabilities such as Go Anywhere, Papercut, Move It, Transfer, and Citrix Bleed. And there's plenty of opportunity. Today's organizations are relying on more applications and third-party software than ever before. At the same time, vulnerabilities in software are increasing in scope and scale and being exploited on a global level that we have not previously seen. When these two things converge, it can be devastating to an organization. Unit 42 has seen many cases where organizations are compromised within hours of the public disclosure of a vulnerability. Attackers have the ability to scan the entire internet for vulnerable targets in just minutes. In many of these cases, organizations must protect their perimeter, but they also worry about what attackers are sending outside of their network via potential vulnerabilities in their software supply chain. If you look at this chart, you'll see the July peak of the Move It vulnerability. CISA, also known as the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency in the US, estimated that more than 3,000 US organizations and 8,000 global organizations were victim of the mass exploitation event involving Move It. That's a massive scale. Next, let's take a look at the level of sophistication we're seeing from threat actors, because that too is increasing. From 2022 to 2023, Unit 42 saw a 66% increase in cloud incident response. So let's drill down into what's actually happening here. The cloud is maturing, and so are the tactics used by attackers. When the cloud was less mature, attackers often used default passwords or other very simple tactics to gain access, the cyber equivalent of walking through an unlocked door. What we see now are attackers exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities to steal credentials, exploiting permissions to move laterally and navigate across multiple services, attacking multiple cloud services at once, and they're abusing cloud services beyond crypto mining, whether for extortion, exfiltration, or other purposes. So where does that leave the Security Operations Center? To effectively defend their cloud resources, SOC teams now need to be just as sophisticated in the cloud as they are on-premise. So let's shift gears and talk about the third and final attack trend we're highlighting today, which is speed. In the old days, it used to take days, weeks, and sometimes months to carry out attacks. But today, at Unit 42, we're seeing incident response cases where attacks are carried out in the span of hours. So if you can, imagine an attacker exfiltrating terabytes of data between the time you leave the office at the end of the day and come back the following morning. We've actually seen this now numerous times. In a recent incident response engagement, 2.5 terabytes of data were exfiltrated in the first 14 hours of the attack. This is especially concerning considering that the industry mean time to respond is 6 days. Recent events with the Ivanti vulnerabilities really illustrate how fast attackers move and how quickly organizations are required to respond. In Unit 42 IR cases for Ivanti, we saw attackers exploiting the vulnerabilities before exploits had even been made public. We also saw organizations attempting to respond quickly to the announcements to patch within a day of the vulnerabilities going public, but this still wasn't fast enough. In some cases, organizations were compromised before they could even complete the patching process. In the Ivanti situation in particular, the speed at which response was needed was made even more challenging by the fact that there were 5 vulnerabilities and at least 3 attack waves, ranging from December 2023 to February 2024. It didn't help matters that there were no patches available at the announcement time and fixes were evolving over time. As you'll see on this slide, Ivanti vulnerabilities were truly global in scope. We observed 145 countries that had almost 30,000 exposed servers. This led to governments worldwide issuing warnings, and some, like CISA, issued orders to disconnect Ivanti services in less than 48 hours. With these 3 key threat factors we've been discussing, scale, sophistication, and speed, continuing to complicate the modern threat landscape, what can today's security teams do to better protect their organizations and prepare themselves? Unit 42 has a full suite of products and services to support our clients' incident response needs end-to-end. We have preparedness services to help improve readiness. Those include incident simulation based on thousands of real-world IR cases. Our testing and assessment services can find vulnerabilities in your environment that you may not know are there. And finally, our team can consult with you on your organization's security strategy and transformation. In addition to what we in Unit 42 can offer you, Palo Alto Networks is in a great position to provide the innovative technologies required to make attackers' jobs much more difficult. The Palo Alto Network product portfolio includes 3 platforms and is trusted by more than 85,000 customers around the world. We offer our Strata platform for network security, Prisma Cloud for code to cloud, and of course, Cortex for SOC transformation. In the sessions coming up, we'll show you how we bring these together to help our clients. With that, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope you reach out to us at Unit 42 if we can help you in any way. I'll now hand things over to Lee and Gonan, who will walk us through SOC transformation and platformization. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I could not be more excited about what we're going to talk about with XSIAM and SOC transformations and platformization. This is incredibly important cybersecurity stuff that we've got going on. And before we get into the new areas of what we're announcing, I want to first make sure that we all come from the same level set of what have we already done relative to SOC transformation. And the backdrop of this is our view in the SOC is there's just way too many tools that were effectively all designed to feed information to a SOC analyst, and that it just puts tremendous pressure on the SOC analyst to actually have to try to operate in real time, like manually stitch this information together in their head, writing it down, trying to keep up with all the attacks and alerts and everything else, and it just isn't working. The SOC is doing everything they possibly can, but the tools they're using are not designed for today's threat landscape. And so what did we do? We built a solution to this. We built XSIAM. We built a real-time security operations platform powered by AI and automation, where we basically ingest all of the industry's best data, our own data, third-party data, any good data we can get our hands on is ingested, we stitch it, and then we run a set of analytics on that stitched data. So no more data silos. We use an extensive set of machine learning models and behavior indicators of compromise and everything else, 3,000 plus of all of those, roughly half of those machine learning powered. We then layer automation on top of that so that the SOC analysts are spending their time only on the most important things that the XSIAM couldn't have dealt with automatically through AI, etc. And that we then package that up so we can drive true SOC integration. So no more separation of the SIM from EDR, from NTA, from SOAR, from attack surface to ITDR to TIM. These should not be separate products. These should be integrated modules of a single platform, and that is exactly what we've done with XSIAM. Now, we have enough history now with XSIAM to be able to see amazing results. What you're seeing here is what the average customer SOC looked like before XSIAM. In general, not ingesting enough data, not handling enough incidents because everything was too manual. They had to ignore the majority of what was actually happening, resulting in mean time to remediation in days. We've run a set of case studies on these customers post-XSIAM deployment, and the results are amazing. We start by ingesting all of the relevant security data into one platform. You can see that in the amount of data. You can see the results and how much we're actually able to deal with in terms of using automation and AI to be able to handle the incidents that are discovered, and the mean time remediation drops from days down to minutes or low number of hours. And these results are typically taken within just a few weeks of XSIAM initially being deployed in the customer's environment. This is the starting point to then continue optimizations, to continue to drive that mean time remediation down into low minutes, which is what we've been able to achieve even in our own SOC. Now, what does this actually look like? The key aspect of XSIAM I mentioned is this ability to ingest data from all the different data sources, and instead of running analytics on the siloed data, we stitch the data together and then run the analytics. And so what you're seeing here is 152 unique, distinct alerts that have been ingested and stitched together, and then the analytics is run on that. And you can see 14 different alert sources came together to create this potential security incident. You see at the top of this where it says 100, that's the smart scoring algorithm that is machine learning driven to determine the priority and accuracy of this security incident. So basically it's saying 100% confident this is a security incident. 152 alerts were mapped into a single incident for the SOC analyst to actually deal with instead of 152 independent ones. You see automations are already run to enrich this. You see there's a set of automations waiting for the SOC analyst to trigger. This is an example where before XSIAM, this would likely take hours. With XSIAM, this is going to take seconds to minutes for the SOC to resolve. Now, if you didn't have XSIAM, would you have detected this? Probably. But would you have known that you had detected it? Because the alerts would have been spread across all the different tools, the priority would have been unclear, and the first thing the SOC would have had to do is figure out how to stitch all of that data together manually after the fact to understand what happened and how to best respond. This no longer works in today's threat landscape. Okay, now that is XSIAM. That is what XSIAM has done for our customers in transforming the SOC. It is incredible. But we are not going to rest. Our product team has been incredibly hard at work driving the next wave of innovation in XSIAM. And what we've been focused on is the cloud. Nearly every business in the world is now effectively running on the cloud. 750 million cloud-native applications now exist or will exist soon. 38 million developers are powering this growth in cloud. 90% of organizations are multi-cloud. Look, the reality is companies and organizations around the world run on cloud, which this means their businesses rely on cloud uptime and cloud security and making sure that everything is just as secure, if not more so, in the cloud than it is on-prem, data centers, enterprise, etc. Yet, if you think about the tools that the SOC has to deal with this, yet again, SOC teams are working their butts off to try to deal with threats in the cloud with an incomplete and insufficient set of tools. The SIEM is collecting some stuff, CSP logs are going somewhere, cloud security products are trying to prevent attacks, but where does that data go for the SOC to be able to use? There's cloud native tools. These are all disparate, disconnected systems yet again, and the SOC analysts are spent working overtime trying to figure out what's going on and respond to attacks in real time. We need a better solution. Now, the industry is going to tell you the answer to this is yet another point product. There's this new term, if you haven't heard it, CDR, Cloud Detection Response. The industry is going to say, guess what? You got this problem. I have a new product. Let me try to sell it to you. I have a different perspective. What if your SOC platform was optimized for the cloud? That is the question we asked ourselves, and that is the question that we sent out to drive our next wave of innovation. And so today, we're here to talk about XSIAM for cloud and delivering the industry's first SOC platform optimized for the cloud. Now, this requires a lot of innovation across a number of areas. Number one, we completely reimagined what it means to do CDR, or Cloud Detection Response. This is a very important capability. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be a standalone product. It should be natively built into your SOC platform, which is exactly what we did. You have to deploy host protections into the cloud. Those capabilities, that agent has to be able to collect a rich set of data back to the SOC. Just like you wouldn't have a workstation or server that's not running EDR in the cloud, we have to have CDR and an agent able to collect all of that rich telemetry information, as well as all of the telemetry information from all of the other cloud sources. Native cloud logs, absolutely, needs to be ingested, stitched. That's what we're going to run analytics on. Other cloud security products, data coming in, stitched, that's going to drive the analytics. Okay? So starting with Cloud Detection Response, absolutely critically important as a natively integrated capability. Second, we're now able to ingest cloud-specific posture information. Through integrations with our Prisma Cloud platform, we're able to ingest a very rich set of cloud-specific posture information to help augment CDR with even more data and context for the SOC analyst to understand potential attacks and their potential impact. And third, we are delivering cloud-specific workflows and UI for the SOC analyst. This is allowing the SOC to be able to understand cloud attacks in the context of the cloud, because there are differences in how cloud applications work and what the SOC analyst needs to see. And then, of course, we're leveraging all of the core capabilities of XSIAM, such as our tremendous analytics and machine learning models, 250 plus specifically designed for the cloud, our cloud automations that are natively built into the platform in order to help automate the majority of the incident response workflows so the SOC analysts can spend their time on only the most important things. This is a major breakthrough in how the SOC secures the cloud. And to tell you more about all the wonderful new product capabilities that we are making available is Gonen Fink, SVP of Products for Cortex. Gonen?
Thank you, Lee. When we designed XSIAM, we wanted it to be the security operation platform that uses AI to power the entire SOC. To do that, we knew that XSIAM needs to bring together the siloed tools that security operations centers use into a single platform. Fast forward to 2024, we see how XSIAM is revolutionizing the SOC, and we couldn't be more encouraged by what we hear from our customers. But we also know that the security threat landscape continues to evolve. New technologies are required to combat emerging threats, and we need to continue and innovate for customers to continue relying on XSIAM as the SOC platform, rather than going and buying new point solutions for those emerging threats. Today, we are excited to share the recent innovations in XSIAM for cloud. A new set of capabilities enable every SOC team to effectively respond to cloud threats. First, it is important to explain that XSIAM for cloud is a native extension of the XSIAM platform. It is not another product. So it provides SecOps team with an holistic view across their enterprise and cloud environment, leveraging the same front-end, back-end, AI, and automation engines that made XSIAM so successful. For the first time, security teams have a purpose-built SOC platform for all their needs across enterprise and cloud. Let's take a closer look at the XSIAM cloud capabilities. SecOps teams struggle to address cloud threats. They have limited visibility into the cloud footprint. They lack the tools to protect their cloud workloads or to detect sophisticated attacks on those workloads. They also have limited control over the infrastructure, means they are limited in the ability to quickly investigate and remediate when cloud incidents occur. XSIAM for Cloud delivers the required tools to address those gaps. And in the next few slides, I would like to touch on 4 key capabilities. First, the Cloud Command Center. Cloud Command Centers acts as the hub for all the security operations in the cloud. It offers SOC teams full visibility into the cloud footprint, optimized specifically for cloud environments, which means it includes detailed listing of the cloud assets, the security posture, vulnerabilities, as well as security incidents associated with those assets. When you have all of that information in one place, analysts gain superior situational awareness, enabling them to respond to threats more quickly, efficiently, and comprehensively. And as a native component of the XSIAM platform, XSIAM Clouds also means that analysts can leverage the same automation engine that power XSIAM with purposely built playbooks to remediate cloud threats. This streamlines operation and enhances analyst efficiency. Moving forward, the first step in security operation is visibility. It's hard to secure what you can't see. But gaining visibility into cloud assets can be challenging. Cloud infrastructure is very dynamic and doesn't follow the traditional processes. It means that workloads can be spun out frequently without SOC teams being aware, sometimes without being properly configured. As a result, when something goes wrong or when suspicious activity occurs, SOC teams struggle to gather all the information they need. But we are not new to this problem in Palo Alto Networks. We have been pioneering the cloud security domain for many years, and our Prisma Cloud platform delivers industry-leading cloud security capabilities tailored to meet the most demanding needs of CloudOps and DevOps teams. With this announcement, we are enabling Cortex customers to take advantage of these capabilities, achieving superior security outcomes in the cloud. Cortex now is capable of ingesting Prisma Cloud asset information, security posture context, vulnerabilities, and other findings that can provide a broader context to understand what is happening in my cloud. What does this mean to an analyst? It means that he can gain enhanced insight into alerts and assets with enriched context. With that context, he can make decisions more quickly and with greater confidence. It also means that he can gain broader visibility into incidents across the infrastructure, ensuring comprehensive coverage and proactive threat mitigation. It means that they can streamline incident management with easier grouping to identify and prioritize issues more quickly. Finally, it means that they can navigate to assets faster and more precisely, accelerating response time and minimizing impact during security incidents. The beauty of this approach is that for the first time, SecOps teams can now adequately respond to cloud threats using the tools and processes they are familiar with, while their peers in CloudOps and DevSecOps teams can focus on proactive security and early protection. Let's dive into cloud detection and response. In the early days of any new technology, it's common to underestimate the need for robust security measures. Attack surface may seem limited, attackers initially paying little attention to those emerging technologies. So the focus often lies on rapidly deploying new systems with minimal security barriers. This has been the case for cloud security until recently. Emphasis in protecting cloud workloads was on ensuring proper configuration, managing known vulnerabilities, and monitoring activity through cloud logs. However, these measures are no longer adequate. Cloud threats are real. they demand the best-in-class runtime threat protection. While leveraging existing runtime security and threat prevention technologies is essential, there is a need for further enhancement. It requires understanding container and Kubernetes environment. It requires supporting various cloud-native platforms, container types, distributions, and deploying optimized tooling for agent orchestration with both kernel mode, eBPF security, and still, it requires to provide a single agent solution that offers complete security coverage, whether it's vulnerability management, compliance enforcement, or threat prevention. And last, the solution must seamlessly integrate into existing security infrastructure to provide visibility to cloud assets and streamline security operations. Finally, investigating in response to cloud incidents. With the comprehensive visibility provided by XSIAM Cloud, leveraging the rich telemetry collected from the cloud security agent, investigating and responding to cloud incidents becomes significantly easier. SOC teams no longer need to navigate through multiple tools in order to understand what is happening. But we do more than that. We leverage XSIAM automation engine to offer customers automated responses to further accelerate mean time to response to cloud incidents. It offers native integration into your cloud providers, empowering your SOC teams to operate more efficiently while achieving superior security outcomes. Thank you all for being with us. I couldn't be more excited about these innovations and the impact they will make. There is nothing more rewarding for us than hearing from real customers who have been able to reach new security heights thanks to our product, which is why I'm so delighted to hand it back to Matt, joined today by our customers to talk about their Cortex experience. Matt, take it away.
You're going to hear from some amazing Palo Alto Network speakers here at Cortex Symphony today, but there's nothing like speaking to real customers, and this is an absolute pleasure for me. We're going to do a little bit of a production high wire act here because joining me in the studio, I have Rishi from Concentrix, and on Zoom, I have Mike from the Home Depot. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us here.
Fantastic. Well, maybe to get us started, Rishi, can you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about Concentrix?
Sure. My name is Rishi, and I am Global Vice President for Information Security at Concentrix. Concentrix is one of the largest customer care organizations, rich in diversity and talent, and servicing customers all around the globe.
And what does your team look like there? What are you dealing with in terms of your security operations?
So I manage security operations and engineering, and part of my job is to constantly look for new solutions and improvise and look at better way to deal with SecOps.
Fantastic, that's what we're here for. And Mike, certainly the Home Depot is a household name here in the United States, but maybe for some of our international viewers, can you tell us a little bit about Home Depot and your role there?
Sure. Home Depot is the world's largest home improvement retailer. We've got about 2,300 stores across North and South America and some other locations. We're about 500,000 employees that work for Home Depot, and we've got about 1 million endpoints within our environment. So it's quite a big undertaking for myself and my team. I run security operations, and we've got about 230 people or so on the team. And with that, we do everything from your traditional SOC functions, but we also have network security operations, vulnerability management, and threat exposure management, along with data protection. So a full-time job, to say the least.
That is a big job that you have there, Mike. And look, let's start with you. I know that you're a fantastic Cortex XSIAM customer. But why don't you wind the clock back a little bit and tell us about some of the challenges that you faced that ultimately kicked off the need to transform how you're doing security operations?
No, it's been quite a journey, obviously. The previous SIM that we had, and really a lot of just the security operations that we did, they were still very manual and one alert in, one alert out type fundamental practices that we had. And we were really looking for something that would scale for our environment. We're ingesting about 60 to 70 terabytes worth of data per day. And being able to traverse through that and have our analysts be efficient and really good at what they do, we just needed to put a better tool in their hands.
That is some incredible scale that you're dealing with there. Rishi, were they similar sorts of challenges or the need to transform at Concentrix? Anything you would add?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenge was on-prem infrastructure. It was becoming a nightmare to manage on-prem infrastructure. And one of the output we were looking at, single pane of glass and visibility. So with the kind of volume that we are dealing with, I think we are pumping at about 25 TB data per day. It was very important for an analyst to see entire data into one pane of glass.
And that's sort of been the nirvana state for security operations forever, right? This whole notion of a single pane of glass. Do you feel like you're getting there now with XSIAM?
Absolutely. And one thing very important is legacy SIM solutions were rule-based, right? And wherein we wanted to move from rule-based to AI-based because there is a limit to how many rules you can create, right? So you really have to depend on some of the tech-driven rules which are learning the models from AI and ML and take it from there.
So Mike, maybe to you now, Rishi spoke about some of the things that drew him to Cortex XSIAM. What was it for you that really attracted you to XSIAM versus other alternative solutions that are on the market?
There were a number of things. Obviously, there's everybody faces cost challenges and making sure that you're being efficient with the resources that you're given. But really, for us, again, it was to really take the scale of the alerts that we had and the ability of the platform to stitch events together and be able to have our analysts work just exceptionally well. On day one, we turned that we had XSIAM on. We had a situation where there was 13 events that would have come in. Prior to XSIAM, we would have had 13 analysts, or people would have actually had to look at them before the logic came and said, "Oh, wait a second, they're related." Whereas XSIAM just gave it to us and said, "Here you go. Here's one event that has 13 individual parts to it that you wanted to take a look at." So the efficiency is really just the biggest driver for us.
That's interesting. So, you mentioned cost there, and I guess there's a few dimensions to cost. There's, the cost of the product, but also the cost of the operations to sort of run it. Was reducing cost a driver for you, or was it more about improving the security outcomes, or both?
It really was both. I mean, so we have a lot of legacy tools in the environment, and the program was kind of built out on very single point solutions. So being able to consolidate some of the platforms together. So the fact that XSIAM has attack surface management capabilities, the XDR capabilities, all of those tied together really make it a compelling story for us.
Absolutely. And Rishi, was cost a factor at all for Concentrix, or was it again more about improving security operations and outcomes for you?
Both, actually. Yeah. So cost is one factor because if you look at, again, legacy SIM solutions, the more you ingest data, events per second, the cost can really go to the roof mount, right? And we really wanted outcomes from an enhanced security perspective. So really both.
Yeah, and you know this, of course, but some of the audience here today may not necessarily know that, of course, XDR is built into XSIAM. Absolutely. And so all of the data that comes from the endpoint, you essentially don't pay to ingest that, unlike other SIM solutions where Correct. That cost can actually just skyrocket as you're ingesting more and more data, especially from your noisy endpoints.
Correct, because your base is given, right? And majority of the data is coming from endpoints and servers. And that is part of your base XDR solution. The only need you need to bolt on is your network devices and you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so could you share, Rishi, maybe some of the improvements that you've seen in terms of security operations after you've deployed XSIAM?
Yeah, so we really measure two metrics very, very closely, which is mean time to detect and mean time to remediate. And that's part of our reporting to our management. We've seen significant reduction. I would say that we are running at about 30 to 35 minutes mean time to remediate. And that ensures that you feel that you are in control of the situation. Obviously, there can be blind spots, but what you are seeing, if you are able to attack that within the shortest amount of time, you feel comfortable that you've invested in the right tech.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Given some non-XSIAM customers are measuring that in days or weeks, sometimes months, that's pretty phenomenal in terms of the outcome you've seen. So Mike, Nir Zook was talking about the need to reduce MTTD, MTTR earlier in this keynote. Rishi just mentioned it. Was that a factor for you guys as well? And what do those metrics look like now after XSIAM's deployed?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been pretty astonishing. We were looking at our MTTR statistics in preparation to speak here. We actually had to go back and make sure that the numbers were real because it was so astonishingly good. So we saw a reduction of 50% just in general of a mean time to respond. But again, when we think about how we were dealing with things from a linear perspective, that really compounds upon itself. Every single event would have that extra time on it. And the fact that we were able to leverage the stringing of the events together, it really does become exponential as far as the savings of manpower hours that we were facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those in the audience who are maybe unfamiliar with this stitching that you're talking about, a core component of Cortex XSIAM is the fact that it stitches together what would have historically been separate, disparate alerts into incidents using AI, and you can sometimes get, as much as 150 to 1 consolidation sort of ratio with just hundreds of alerts that, like you mentioned earlier, Mike, poor analysts would have to sift through and try and triage. Now, with AI, it brings that together into incidents, it prioritizes those, and so you can make your security analysts much more effective. What about the role of automation, Mike? What's your perspective on the notion of automation and how that can improve your security operations? How do you think about that?
Well, automation really is one of our core tenets. When I joined Home Depot, I made sure the team had a focus on automating where it makes sense. And there's a lot of benefits to that. But the biggest one is, I want our exceptional analysts focusing on the really, really hard, difficult stuff and letting the mundane just events, let the machines handle it, let the AI deal with it so that we can go after the really hard and challenging items. And it's just been amazing for us with that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes there's a misconception among some security analysts that automation is going to take away their jobs or something like that. But I don't know, what we're seeing from most of our customers, I don't know if you agree, Mike, is, like you said, automation takes care of the boring and mundane stuff, and now your analysts can actually do interesting things like threat hunting and other sorts of SOC engineering. Is that what you're seeing with your team as well?
Yeah, completely. I mean, look, change is always a challenge for folks, and it would make you nervous. Again, with the amount of data that we're ingesting every day, though, there's plenty of work for us to do, even with leveraging AI and the automation pieces of XIAM. So, we definitely have jobs for folks that they don't have to worry about their job security. So we'll just put them on more challenging projects to deal with.
Yeah, and maybe to continue building on that, there's job security, but there's also this notion of burnout as well. How do you think about burnout within your security analyst team, and do you think the automation and XIAM can help with that as well?
Well, absolutely. With those reductions in time in MTTR, it really does give folks a sense of accomplishment because you're handling a larger amount of alerts, but you do then also not have that stress of constantly having the barrage coming down on you and seeing the queue continue to escalate up.
Yeah, for sure. Rishi, how do you think about automation at Concentrix?
So automation is the key, right? Gone are the days when your number of analysts can be directly proportional to the number of alerts, because for setup like us, right, even 500 people in SOC would not be enough. So unless you are doing automation, you cannot really handle the latest threats. And my personal theory is integrate, orchestrate, automate, remediate. The more time you spend on integrate, orchestrate, and automate, the less time you will spend on remediate. So plan these 3 steps well, and you'll be able to reap the results of the remediation within the required minutes.
I love that. What you've said there is basically there's sort of a spectrum of automation. I think sometimes people think about automation in the SOC as just about automating the remediation. That's kind of like the last step. There's a whole lot that can be automated even before that to reduce that manual effort that your analyst has to perform, even before you start thinking about automated remediation, which can be a little more challenging because then you're actually automatically doing things that could potentially impact your operations, right?
Right, and a lot of people are worried, right? If automation kicks in, it might automate something, lead to production impact, right? So define your tasks, and the one where you are taking a critical step of mass insertion of a block rule or something like that, put an analyst in between so that he can decide for you. And he just click yes, and the rule gets spread. So there is a solution to every problem.
Absolutely. That's great. So, Mike, maybe to close us out here, there's plenty of people in the audience, security leaders like yourself, that are probably thinking about embarking on their own SOC transformation journey. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give them? Any guidance?
Well, for the analysts, obviously, don't be afraid of the automation piece of it and the new tools that are out there. I would definitely say to my counterparts and peers out there, looking at a holistic platform like this, don't be afraid of that aspect of it as well. Like I said, I think in security, we've always looked at the exact right tool for a very single use case. I think those days are certainly moving on, and you do have to look at a holistic platform that will allow you to really reap the benefits of getting the full picture. So don't be afraid of breaking the mold a little bit, I guess would be the piece of advice.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that notion of platformization is absolutely critical. Rishi, how about you? Any guidance or advice for your peers who are embarking on a similar transformation that you've gone through?
Yeah, absolutely. Embrace the change. Automate as much as you can, because we have to fight a very hard battle. Automation will give you two benefits. One is obviously your mitigation is getting automated, and then you are doing some high-end stuff on finding latest threats in your network. So I think embrace the change, automate as much as you can, and then move forward with it.
Fantastic. Rishi, Mike, thank you so much for taking your time today here at Cortex Symphony 2024.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. I hope you found this valuable and enjoy the rest of the event today.
I am Nearly Noel, a synthesized avatar, here to help with the introduction. Get ready to meet the incredible Noelle Russell. She's not your ordinary technologist. She's a game changer. With her entrepreneurial spirit and expertise in conversational AI, generative AI, and language models, Noelle has revolutionized the tech industry. But here's the best part. Noelle is so much more than her professional achievements. She's a true inspiration for balancing work and family life. As a wife and mother of 6, she embodies the definition of courage and determination. Get ready to be blown away by Noelle's spectacular journey. Join me in welcoming the phenomenal Noelle Russell.
I always like to start a session with a little deep fake. I think it's pretty exciting. It's also something that we're all talking about. But if you're not familiar, this is a brand, a company known as HeyGen. And the interesting thing about Nearly Noel, who just gave my thank you for that wonderful introduction. The interesting thing about HeyGen is that is an instant avatar, and it's actually part of their freemium service. So you don't actually have to pay for it. It takes about 2 minutes to record anything you're passionate about. You just talk for 2 minutes into your favorite smartphone, you upload your video, and in about 15 minutes, you have an instant avatar. And in this case, the one thing you might have noticed, and certainly you'll notice if you have a chance to see it again, I have it on my YouTube channel as well, but it not only deep faked, of course, my face. I did not say those words. I actually used GPT or probably Claude to generate the talk track that it used, but it also deep faked my voice. And as professionals in this world, specifically in this industry, these are the types of things that are extremely exciting, huge opportunity, but also very interesting from a maybe concern perspective. So just some of the things that we're going to touch on and tackle throughout the next few minutes with you today. I am, as Nearly Noel said, Noelle Russell. I founded a company about 10 years ago called the AI Leadership Institute, but that came actually from a very exciting career that I've had in the world of AI. And actually 10 years ago, I got an email. I was actually working at AWS, and I got an email from Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos, okay, it wasn't to me per se, it was actually to the whole company, but I felt like he was speaking to me. And in this email, it invited anyone who read it to become part of a brand new team. And that team was Amazon Alexa. And I was employee 10, hired into the skills team to help build applications for this brand new interface, this voice interface. And I, of course, got very excited about it. I'm a mom of 6, as you heard Nearly Noel say. I have one of my children, though, my firstborn child has Down syndrome. And I remember thinking, this is a technology I can use to make his life better. Like, I am going to be on this team. And Usually I actually always, and of course, I love to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do and why I do it. But that's him in the middle. There's Max in the pool. He's my son that I was referring to. But I also have a dad who's aging. He lives with us. He is in my house. He suffered a traumatic brain injury. Actually, it was the year Alexa launched, so almost 10 years ago now. But when he suffered that traumatic brain injury, he lost his short-term memory. And little did I know then that the work I would do in Alexa and in Microsoft AI and then at IBM, that work would be critical to improving the lives of not just my son, but also my dad, and really of anyone with different abilities. It doesn't allow them to use technology in a traditional way, but then also reducing friction for everyone, everywhere. It sounds pretty exciting. But one of the biggest things I learned is that in the enthusiasm that comes with kind of harnessing this technology, I hope, or at least this has been my job for the last 8 years or so, is to encourage organizations to think not just what great, amazing things they could do, but also what's the worst possible thing that could happen. I know it sounds kind of, depressing a little bit, maybe a buzzkill, but I often will say to people, it's great to think about the opportunity that AI invites us to use. But with that comes an increased, vulnerability. And that vulnerability basically exponentially grows the attack force, right? The attack surfaces that we need to be curious about, concerned about, and mitigating against as we grow our organization's use of this technology. And so that's the journey I'm going to take you on today. I am really excited to be here. I am a podcast host. So I host Good Morning AI, where every morning we get up and we talk about some of the interesting and scary things that are happening in the world of AI, all through the lens of responsible practitioners, basically ethicists that are worried about how we're using this. And I've actually used a term that's kind of akin to adopting baby tigers. This is how I think about it, right? Like my job at Amazon, I was there 4 years. I launched 4 language models. And at the time, everyone was very excited, very happy. No one was really thinking about the bad things that could happen or the ways people could misuse the technology. It was like an exciting momentum that was being built. Often we refer to this as like the hype cycle. And so this hype cycle, we're in it right now with generative AI. I was part of that fun phase that happened in the early part of 2013 and 14 when Alexa and then eventually Google Assistant launched. Like everyone got really excited. But this concept of baby tigers is that people, when we get excited about these models, it's like adopting a baby tiger. We get it, we get excited about it. People come around and they want to help us and they're excited to help us, and the ecosystem starts to grow and everyone wants to be close to this cute little tiger. No one's really asking though at that moment, like, wow, baby tiger, you've got pretty big paws. Like, what does that mean? Or man, look at those teeth. Wonder what you're going to use those for. Like nobody's really asking those questions. And that's exactly what I try to do in the rooms that I get to be in with my clients. Is I'm the one who's like, hey, you're about to adopt a tiger. And if you know a little bit about tigers, they start off small and cute, but they turn into big tigers, and big tigers, well, can hurt people, sometimes kill people. And AI models are very similar, especially when you look at it across all industries. So as a professional in this space, as someone who's thinking about kind of security as a whole, but security expands significantly in the world of AI because it's not just about adversarial attacks. It's actually now about benign interactions with the model that could actually turn into situations that create vulnerabilities that an organization hasn't even thought of. So I'm always, educating my customers. I'm educating the world on, hey, baby tigers are super cute. Everyone wants one. Everyone wants to adopt a little model and start either building their own, maybe, or more likely getting a model from a big company and starting to use it. But what are the questions we have to ask right now, today, that'll protect us as these models get older, bigger, more mature, and ultimately begin to scale? Now, I spend a lot of my time talking to executives. I often tell people I go from the boardroom to the whiteboard to the keyboard. And what that means is that I get a chance to talk to executives about how they're going to use AI to improve their business and protect their interests, but then also how are technical architects going to implement this safely and responsibly? How are developers, how are practitioners, how are security professionals going to leverage this technology? And so today I want to share with you the top 3 questions I get. I probably have done, I don't know, 600 or 700 of these types of sessions. And I get the same 3 questions. And I realized how valuable these questions were. So I want to share those with you and a little bit of insight into what those questions mean and maybe a tiny bit of an answer in the short time we have together. But this is just the beginning. So I'm Noelle Russell. I'm your friend. We could connect. And of course, if this provokes questions, there are people in the chat ready to answer them. So you can ask those questions live right now. And we'll be happy to answer those questions as they come up. But here are the top 3 questions that I get from executives all over the world, and not just executives, technical architects. There's a new role, chief AI officer. So all of these people are asking these questions. And I'd love for you to think about these questions from your perspective, because I think there's a little bit of everyone's concerns kind of wrapped up in these. The first question is really, I think, exciting and an amazing opportunity for me to finally get to talk about the thing I've been saying for so very long, which is, how do you build stuff that doesn't hurt people? Now, that is not exactly the way that the way that executives have framed the question. Instead, they say, how do I not hurt my business? How do I not hurt my brand? How do I not hurt my customers? Right? Like, they're more worried about, I don't want to be a news article on the Wall Street Journal. I want to know, how do I build on this excitement and enthusiasm, but how do I build in a safe environment? And so that safe environment is not something too unfamiliar to us in the world that we're in right now, where we like to create these incubators, these testing grounds. We call them sandboxes, right? And these sandboxes allow us to create a bunch of variables, hypotheses, if you will, that we can test against, but it also creates an environment that's safer and locked down, if you will, that allows us to harness the enthusiasm of an organization, but do it in a way that's contained. And that is one of the first kind of premier rules, guardrails that I encourage organizations to put in place, is that I tell every employee in a company, look up the URL. And if you are trying to use a generative model and your URL isn't there, you're not in your VPN, right? If you're not inside your own private network, then don't use it. It is the number one thing that you can change to avoid some of the most common challenges other companies have had. So how do you build it safely and responsibly? You start with a sandbox, but then you also need to start thinking about, like I said, it's good and fun to think about all of the amazing things you could do with it, but you also need to think about who's going to be the organization, the team that's going to help you build this safely. And Microsoft, Amazon, Google have all adopted and created very specific AI red teams. And these AI red teams are diverse, inclusive groups. And I don't just mean gender and ethnicity, of course, yes, but I really mean like neurodiversity, business unit diversity. Like, how are we going to make sure that there's someone at the table when building and testing these services, these AI models, that someone's at the table ready to raise their hand and say, hey, what about this? Right? What about this scenario? What about this concern? When it comes to using LLMs and generative AI, right? One of the biggest vulnerabilities is the fact that you can just say what you want and the model will do its best to generate you an answer, whether it's right or wrong. And if not protected, and again, a red team's job is to provide 4 or 5 different levels of protection, but one of them is around user experience. Another is around prompt engineering. Another is around meta prompts and system prompts. These are all maybe new terms to you, but maybe not. But this red teaming is very similar to what we do in a cybersecurity world. But now, in addition to just thinking about adversarial attacks, as I mentioned earlier, we really do have to shift our lens towards benign interactions as well, because easily benign interactions can easily start to transition or change ground truth in a model so that it actually starts behaving badly. So AI red teams, from a security perspective, allow us to embrace all the good stuff that happens in a security professional world, but allow us to now also add to that the responsible AI practices and mitigation strategies that we can use. So together, that's why it's not just a traditional red team, but an AI specific red team that takes into account prompt engineering, meta prompt, and system prompt management, and these types of activities that help us prevent jailbreaking and prompt injection and some of the most common, but also some of the more nuanced ways of attacking these new systems. So I think it's really important to realize that some of it's the same, so that's good news, but a lot of it's a bit nuanced as we move into the world of AI. The very next question that organizations ask is, where do they, now that they know how to build a safe environment to start playing around, a sandbox, if you will, a playground, what should they do first? And I offer a rubric for this. The first one is around thinking about what your core values as an organization are. AI is going to amplify core values, amplify the intention that you're setting with some of the models that you build, unconscious bias. All of these things will get amplified as you use these models. And so one of the best ways to mitigate for that is to really align initial use cases with the core values of your company. The next thing is looking at risk. And this is a big area that we can lean on the security professionals in an organization that already do a lot of risk assessment. But as I mentioned, the risk actually is a bit different as you move into the world of large language models, conversational AI, and more importantly, just machine learning in general. Building reinforcement learning models, using human feedback, all of that has a lot of potential risk. And so we want to really look at how do we take what our core values are, moderate that with what we consider is risky, and then finally do a brief analysis of what we think might be hard versus easy, and go after the easy stuff first. At the end of the day, AI is research. You are not guaranteed an outcome like you are with maybe certain programming languages, right? There isn't that level of precision and prescription available to you when you're building a data science, an algorithm, or a machine learning outcome. So you really want to come to it from the perspective of an experiment and do lots and lots of testing before you ever hit production. So starting with a small, easy to you build application that is aligned with your core values and is not risky to anything you consider risky in your organization, that's a very happy spot to start. And it's where I've seen most success in the, 300 projects that I was able to deliver in the last couple of years. So that is the most common second question. And as you might be thinking, or maybe not, I don't know, I feel like as a security professional, you've got pretty good job security as we move into this world, but maybe you're worried about the workforce and how this will transform the world of a security professional, how it will transform the tasks you do every day. And what I'll share with you is that transforming the workforce is more about reinventing what we do in our jobs. AI is going to augment your capabilities. And the first way to leverage that augmentation is to have really precise understanding of what you do every single day, and then look at how or where could AI augment me? And there are certain tasks, usually they're tasks that in our mind we think to ourselves, there should be an app for this, or the app I have is too old, or why am I doing this manually? Like those types of tasks should instantly be put on a list of, can we use AI for that? Because that's how we're going to get back hours in our day to focus on bigger problems, higher value problems, and honestly, problems that we as professionals in this space care about more, we have more fun doing, and therefore our productivity goes up because our employee happiness goes up. So we have all of these capabilities that allow us to do this augmentation, but a human really needs to do the assessment first to figure out where the right place is. Now, of course, we have more power than ever. I always like to bring us to a close talking about, my favorite quote ever. I say it probably too often, and maybe you can say it along with me, but with great power comes, and hopefully right into your mind, you see a picture of maybe Spider-Man or Uncle Ben, right? Or maybe Voltaire, a slightly older generation, right? But with great power comes great responsibility. And what that means is that as we get and watch our organizations get very excited about this technology, it's our responsibility to hold them accountable for the consequences of a lot of these actions. So you may become, even though you never saw yourself doing this, an evangelist, an advocate in this space to help educate users, because it's not just programmers that are using this. It's every individual in the business is going to now be interacting and creating attack surfaces. I know this might be a little bit scary, but it's great work. We got lots of work to do. But also AI is not only going to be the thing you're trying to battle against, mitigate against, it's also going to be your partner to help you solve for these challenges. So I think it's a really exciting time to be in this space. I wanted to share with you as a gift, just a little collection of use cases that are extremely valuable because they came from the Fortune 500. We had about 483 responses, and they said, these are the areas we're looking to leverage AI specifically in the area of red teaming support, meaning Those AI red teams are focused on these areas. But even more importantly, maybe, is that these are the boxes, these yellow boxes, where they prioritized work in the next 6 months. So just so you kind of get a pulse on how executives are thinking about AI, I think it's really useful to know where their minds are. And again, you could change those minds if you choose to, but this is where a lot of companies are like, hey, if I'm going to get more intelligent about my customers, how do I make sure I don't create more problems than I solve? If I want to do edge surveillance and security, I want to do fraud analysis, I want to do, like regulatory intelligence. How do I manage regulatory information and changes that are coming as a result of this technology? These are the hot spots. And so places to dive in, if you will. And finally, my principle, what I do, and of course you're here, so you're one of them. You're a learning by doing kind of person. You're here learning some of this technology, but the most important thing you can do is actually put your fingers on a keyboard and build something. And of course, as security practitioners, you probably know this very well, or as a leader, you certainly have done it in the past. But now, because it's just natural language, you just have to speak. You just have to ask. I've created firewall rules just by requesting them. And then I've asked models to grade themselves on how well it did. And it said, I'd give myself a C. And I'm like, what would you do to change this thing you made for me to give yourself an A or a B? And I can actually have a conversation with the machine to build better things than I could do myself in a fraction of the time. And I think that's something, again, not for every task, but for certain tasks that take a lot of our time, it's worth starting to practice. So I'll leave you with this QR code. It's a way to get in touch with me. It's also a way to download the upskilling guide we have. We have one for security professionals. We have retail. We have finance. So no matter where you are in the world and what your passion is, it's really a great time to get in and start playing around with this technology. So thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
What a fantastic message from Noelle Russell to end this part of our day. Like her, the entire Cortex team believes in the promise of AI, and our mission is to unlock its potential as a force for good to protect customers like you. And it was a pleasure for me to speak with Mike from the Home Depot and Rishi from Concentrix. The scale at which they've deployed XSIAM across their organizations is incredible, and what makes it even more impressive is the massive reduction they've seen in MTTR. Now with that, my time with you has come to an end, but that doesn't mean Symphony is over. We've got a bunch of breakout sessions available on demand for you to explore. Here's a sneak peek of what you'll see.
One of the things that I constantly hear is customers want to be doing more proactive security, sure, but unfortunately they don't have the time to do it. And so what ends up happening is they get stuck in this reactive mode where they're just jumping from incident to incident, and they never have an opportunity to really backtrack and go and build those protections or do that threat hunting. And the reason this is happening is we're seeing that threat actors are carrying out attacks end to end a lot faster.
And when we're thinking about threat actors, they've been getting more advanced, more sophisticated, and they're covering more grounds, moving from cloud to identity to endpoint to network, and combining them to create more sophisticated attacks. And this requires a high level of detection capability and prevention capability to block them.
So XSOAR can also help here, and you can apply automation to a lot of these cloud operations. Here are some use cases where XSOAR can help automate, and they include risk prioritization. You have the granular alert routing to different stakeholders in the organization. You have incident alert prioritization, and we've talked about this for a little bit now, the threat data enrichment.
Grouping and stitching actually tells the full attack story more effectively in a single place, instead of having an analyst perform all of these operations manually and creating an incident on his own. Cortex XDR does all of that for you, ensuring you're focused on the most important things. Things like researching threats, improving detections, and performing proactive threat hunting, rather than repeating the same tedious actions over and over again just to filter out the noise.
We think attack surface management is too manual today for too many customers. Once you see an exposure in an ASM product, you need help fixing it quickly, because attackers are moving at machine speed. Your defense needs to operate at machine speed too.
So who is Unit 42? Unit 42 are Palo Alto Network's threat intelligence, incident response, proactive services, and managed services team. We are hundreds of consultants and threat researchers providing global coverage for our customers. We conducted nearly 1,000 IR investigations a year. Severe attack like enterprise-wide ransomware, APT, or network intrusions. Our team has responded to some of the largest breaches in history.
On behalf of the team here at Palo Alto Networks, I want to thank you for joining us today. Make sure you follow us on social, and for more information, head to paloaltonetworks.com/Cortex. Thank you.